I can't work from it. Wi-Fi's too bad.
Okay. I did get the question from the grandson this weekend why I went into teaching instead of coaching. So what are you talking about? He said, look at those buyouts. He's 14. He's an econometric. He's an economist already. All right, I want to point out this on the Titanic, since I know y'all work so hard on it religiously. You load the data set up, there it is. Okay. Now, you already know you're going to predict survived or not. Okay, and you've got all these features. How many of them would you toss to even start with before you even started the analysis? You run DF head, you see the first 5 rows, you look at that and you go, okay, what can I toss?
Ticket.
Okay, we're going to toss ticket, all right. Don't need name, that's correct.
Cabin.
Don't need cabin.
Home destination.
Don't need home destination.
Embark.
Embark, where they got on ship, don't need that. Boat means what lifeboat they were on. Don't need that. So you guys have just tossed, business professional, this is what you'll be doing. Tossed home destination, whether or not they recovered a body or not, the boat that they were on, where they got on the boat, the cabin, because the cabin, the fare, and the class are all the same thing. Okay, if they're not the same thing, they're incredibly highly correlated. So pick one, probably the first, second, or third class. Okay, so you toss cabin fare, the ticket. I don't even know what parts means. I think that's siblings. So there you got age, you got gender, toss the name. What am I left with? Well, not much. Just my inspection, you look at this, you go through the usual stuff we do, there you have it. Okay, well, it gets kind of interesting. You guys know from your machine cleaning, your data cleaning, that's not going to work. What am I going to have to do with that column?
0.
Yep, encode it. Okay, you decide. They got to be careful. If you want hot encoded, which I don't recommend, that'd be fine. But female MEF use 0-1. Okay, you don't want to say that the male's more important than the females getting rescued. That's actually it's the opposite. Women and children first. Okay. But I just go ahead and assign that. Then the class gets kind of interesting. Here you got first, second, or third class, 1, 2, or 3. Do you have to do anything with that?
You could encode that too. You could encode that. You could hot encode that too.
Yeah, now why would you want to one hot encode it? Why not just use 1, 2, and 3?
Because 2 and 3 aren't greater than 1.
Exactly.
Yeah.
3 would be more important to the algorithm than first class. Third class more than first class. So you want to hot encode that. Now, you come down, you do the the usual thing. Well, got a little problem here. All right, because I come down here, I've got missing NAND values. The only feature here is age, so I'm going to impute that. Okay, you get to decide. I always use median, like I said, rather than mean. All right, so I one hot encode the classes. Now that's this. Then the age has been imputed already with median. Now I'm going to encode what they call sex. I prefer gender, but then there's DF head. Now notice when I come down here to assign the variable, what you can do is drop one of these one hot encoded classes or features. It's called the dummy variable trap. If you're not careful, when you encode to class 1, class 2, and class 3, they're highly correlated, and it's going to blow up some of your analyses. So what you do is you drop one of the columns. If I drop 3, this class is 1. In the first class, this is 1. This is 0. Okay, if I'm in second class, then I get 0, 1. What about third class? If I get a 0 in 1 and 2, that means you're in third class. Okay, so anytime you see 0, 0, third class is going to be what you're talking about. I've not thought about that, but that's what happens, and it's just useful as you come around. Run your logistic regression just like we already have. There's your scores. 77% accuracy is not bad. We've got a very small subset, small data set. The coefficients are what you assume they'd be. What's interesting is age comes out negative. Why?
The younger you are, the more likely you are to be saved.
Yeah, age before beauty.
Yeah.
Kids went first. They did a great job on that, women and children. Okay, well, it's kind of interesting here. Class 1, 1.9, the coefficient, 0.8 for class 2. Gender, 2.4. That's kind of interesting because women and children. Okay. By the way, first class survived much better. It was very difficult on Titanic to get up from third class. They did not have enough lifeboats, you guys know that. Okay. So you come down, you do your bootstrapping, and you check the errors. Then it comes down, everything's highly significant. So that's great. Overfitting, looks nice. Same old logistic regression. What I want you to get out of this is just the way you examine your data. So when you're out there doing your data sets, I know y'all are well into it now, don't hesitate. If it's not going to contribute, dump it. Okay. There's a great data set on tsunamis in the Pacific. They've got records going back 400 or 500 years. They've digitized those, but it turns out that their data was so, it was human reporting is what it was for hundreds of years. Now we have buoys that they just throw out the first couple, 300 years, which is great thinking. So that's all I was talking about on this. It's an interesting little widely used data set for practice. Anybody been watching what's going on with Accenture? Okay, Accenture's being run, their new CEO is named Julie Sweet. Now she came out of the consulting world. I'm not sure, I think she might have come out of McKinsey. This is Accenture. I think she would come out of another giant consulting company, maybe, I can't remember. Anyway, they brought her in from outside. So here's the situation. Now this is September 27th, which was 2 days ago. On the earnings call Thursday, she outlined plans to cut staff who are unable to reskill on artificial intelligence. Now that's just about as blatant as I've ever heard it. They reported 7% growth in revenue, which the growth, they said it came from client demand to become trained on using AI. In other words, they want Accenture to come in there and train their people. So Accenture has set out plans to lay off staff who are not able to reskill on AI. This is in light of a broader restructuring strategy which will see the company prioritize AI efforts. She said, AI is going to be a part of everything we do. That's a direct quote. And she expects all her employees to retrain and retool at scale. We're investing in upskilling our reinventors. I guess that's what employees are called now, reinventors, which is our primary strategy. Now, one of the nice things about AI is everybody thinks it's a problem. It's not. You have a business problem that you apply AI to. So if you're looking here on a reinventor, what's that? What's the first principles of a business process? What does first principles mean? Clean sheet. Take a business process, whatever they do at Accenture, and start with a clean sheet of paper. If you ever talked about thinking out of the box, that's what they're doing. They're not asking for your opinion. She said, we're also going to make that our primary strategy. She explained that the company is, now you got to understand, this is strange. This is a direct quote. Exiting on a compression timeline, people for whom reskilling isn't a viable path. Okay, that's like word salad. What does that mean? Very quickly, if you don't reskill, we're going to fire you. That's what that means. Exiting on a compression timeline. Coach. She said Accenture's already reskilled 550,000 workers on the fundamentals of generative AI. Really? Has she forgotten the rest of it? And she's outlined a 6-month, $870 million business optimization program, which detailed costs associated with severance and headcount reductions, which is, as you know. Okay? We expect savings over $1 billion from our business optimization program, which we're going to reinvest in our business and our people. And let's see here. Alongside the cuts, the company is going to continue hiring. It has increased its AI talent with 77,000 employed AI and data professionals in 2025, which is twice what they had in 2023, which is 18 months ago. Experience. I was really surprised that she just came out and basically threw down the gauntlet. I wonder how many of her people are just going to walk. Compressed timeline, I guess that means, I don't know. I wonder if Accenture's offering the programs or whether you have to go out to Udacity or Udemy or one of those online schools. I really don't know. It's fascinating, though. I don't understand they're reskilling their workers on generative AI. I don't quite get that. I'll give you a good example. The chapter closing case in chapter 1 talks about Amazon. I go into all the data that they have, customer data, seller data, Amazon Web Services data, logistics, supply chain data, operational data, advertising data. Now, they also have product data, device and sensor data, and external data. Okay, that's 9 categories. You can read the details. The business problems, regulatory compliance, supply chain resilience, global competition, security and privacy, labor practices, fake reviews, and third-party sellers. Nowhere in that case, which is a lengthy couple pages in the book, does it have anything to say about generative AI. So I'm kind of interested in what the CEO of Accenture is talking about, which he doesn't mention blocking and tackling. I don't quite get that. So I am going to follow him because it does make me curious. All right. Now, obviously, these systems have disadvantages that we talked about Wednesday. Seriously huge data sets, and I said they can be expensive because of labeling. Labeling is done by humans. There are mistakes being made by allowing labeling to be done by the system itself. Then you're in a downward spiral. You got to be very careful. Correlation versus causation. You guys had this in high school. Correlation is there's a relationship. Doesn't have anything to do with the direction. Okay, causation, occurrence of one event directly leads to occurrence of the other. This is confused more times than I could possibly tell you. You just have to pay attention. Sales of running shoes increase when gym memberships rise. Well, that's great. Maybe a correlation, but it doesn't mean that more gym memberships cause higher running shoe sales. You can have any sorts of other variables, extraneous variables. I had a question about, we're talking about university admissions, if you want to talk about correlation versus causation. Any of the variables we talked about in university admissions, which just think of the application y'all filled out, are any of those causative? We'd like for them to be, but that's not the case. Now, by the way, what are you trying to predict? When you guys apply here as an undergraduate, that would be your junior in high school, senior in high school, somewhere there. Okay. What are we looking for there? What is our metric at Auburn? What are we trying to predict based on all the stuff you guys filled out?
most likely to graduate and go on to succeed, I suppose.
Okay, let's keep it simple because we never know about people succeeding.
Yeah.
It all depends on, that's your definition of, we have some people who become wildly wealthy and other people who not. So I'd worry about the metrics, yeah.
Maybe most likely to finish the 4 years without dropping out?
That would be great. We tried that. You're exactly right. It's, can you get out of here in 4 years, which is what the plan is. Okay, what's the average length of time it takes for an Auburn University undergraduate to graduate?
5.
5.5. Some of that's on the student, some of that's on us, prerequisites, stuff like that. So it's, can you graduate in 5.5 years? So what is the probability based on all of your input features that you give us? Those are all self-report. Well, no, we do. Y'all have to turn in a transcript, don't you? So the ACT score is official and your transcript is. They won't let you send a transcript in. Okay, your high school has to. Nothing's causative. I have no idea. I mean, we have a lot of people that come in here, engineering all the way. They run the calculus 3.
Maybe switch.
3.
That's what made me switch.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, yes, College of Business.
Uh-huh.
They blow up stats, and then it's liberal arts. Not repeat this, students. So this is what we're looking for. So we don't look for causative here. The NIL and portals. How do you know, where to pay the money, who's going to go in the portal, who's going to be on your team? How would you like to be a coach trying to run this? Is there a correlation between the number of 5 stars that you have on your team and the number of wins that you have? Wouldn't surprise me. Of course, now that could also depend on the conference you're in and your schedule. Okay, so that's a little dicey. Causative, probably not. Now, if you're a big donor, you think it's causative because you're really irritated. Okay, the black box problem. Oh, man, we're in a fix. The more complicated the neural network is, in other words, the number of hidden layers, the number of parameters up in the trillions, then we don't have interpretability. What that means is the system cannot explain to us how it made its predictions. Be nice, but it's not. Transparency means you can look inside the neural network and see how it's making its decisions. Can't do that either. That is a problem. So, you've got a bank. It decides it's want to use a machine learning system to handle loan applications. This looks like low-hanging fruit. That looks like an even simpler application than what you did applying to Auburn. Depending on the size of the loan, it probably is. Okay, and you guys know the variables here. Okay, what's your income? Do you have a job? Do you rent or buy? Are you married? I haven't quite figured that one out, but don't tell Linda I said that. So the system analyzes all your stuff. Okay. All of a sudden, your system has denied a loan. Well, the applicant wants to know why. Y'all ever run into this?
Mm-hmm.
How do banks do when they explain that to you? Poorly. Some loan officer gets to chat with you. Now, you'll notice the loan officer sees the machine learning made the denial decision. Evidently, the human wasn't in the loop. This thing must have gone out to this person immediately. And so then you can see the data. You know the features that it's looking at, but you can't explain exactly how it arrived at that decision. Now, you can do something simple like look at which features are significant. Y'all have done statistical significance. But you get to explain all this. But if you can't explain it real well, I think you've got some business problems. How do you explain it? The customer's not happy. What if the customer claims discrimination? How does that, you're going to have to prove then that the decision was not biased, which means you're going to pull up a whole lot of other cases, de-identify them, and get them subpoenaed. Quality control, what if the system's making mistakes? What if you're in a situation where you're in an area that's being redlined, where certain geographic areas are denied loans at a much higher rate than other geographic areas. You've got to get in there and fix this. Now, what do you do? Where does quality control fit with the black box problem? Whew, you got a mess. You got to figure out a way to understand. Now, you can run test cases through there and try to step through the neural network. That's tough. So trying to require explainable AI, that's great, guys, but it doesn't work in generative AI. Those models are huge. So not there, and it is, that's probably going to be one of your biggest problems. Okay, what if you fail one of these things? What if this thing blows up? One of the things you get the fear of missing out, if you think your major competitors are running machine learning systems, you want to jump in there, and putting a machine learning system in with the life cycle is exactly like putting an information system in. It's just another set of information systems, hardware and software. So they may collect data, deploy these systems without using proper controls and safeguards, human in the loop. You could waste time and resources, and you will if it doesn't work. And of course, if you negatively impact customers or the organization or society itself, you're going to have an interesting time stepping out of that one. So, look at that. A credit scoring system. Okay? You got unfair loan denials based on the credit scoring system, and the bank abandoned the project after facing regulatory scrutiny and reputational damage. All right, here we go. This was from July 28th. Anybody use the Hertz system? Anybody run into what Hertz is doing? Okay. In April of this year, Hertz announced that it would be using UVEYE, an AI damage scanning system to check its cars for damage after they were returned. Well, what you did, ran it through the scanner, and the scanner, which was machine learning enabled, looked for damages. Okay. Customers complained that Hertz was charging them hundreds of dollars for minor cosmetic scuffs that probably would have been shrugged off by a human employee, or in some cases, phantom damage where none was visible at all. Anecdotal reports made it sound like the system was basically still a disaster and it's alienating customers. This is true because I watched this happen. One user insisted they were, quote, done with the Hertz agency after UVI flagged non-existent dings after they returned their rental. When they checked the car, however, there was nothing visible. That customer tried to speak to employees and managers at the Hertz counter, but none were able to help. Every single one pointed fingers at the AI scanner, quote unquote. They were told to contact customer support. Hertz representatives claimed they could not do anything. Well, they had to look in the system to see if the scanner was misinterpreting reflections or dirt on a dark car as damage, just as one example. There's no way to even present the possibility, no path to defend yourself. It was an unchallengeable automated accusation. This came out in the New York Post, and they've got a ongoing, shall we say, investigation at Hertz right now. Last time I turned in a Hertz car was 3 months ago. It didn't go through the scanner at all. And the employee made a big deal of saying, we're not using the scanner at this location. We didn't ask.
Are the employees not allowed to override what the scanner says?
Well, now that's exactly what happened because they always get in a rush. For example, we were flying back to the West Coast, so about noon that day, there were 100 cars being checked in San Francisco. And you checked in. Here's what happens. You check in, your car's turned in, they give you a bill, then they run it through the scanners. Then you get the add-on, the way I understood it. There's some really irritated people. Disgruntled customers of the Germany-based car rental company Sixt, S-I-X-T, describe being fined hundreds of dollars over purported damage detected by their agency's AI, CarGate. Perfect. CarGate. Upon closer inspection, it became clear that the images used as evidence were not correct. They had two of these people were fined $650 each after the CarGate flagged damage. But when the customers looked at photos attached to the fines, they noticed that the photos did not match the time frames in which they rented the cars. In each case, the photos showed damage that occurred before their rentals, meaning they shouldn't have been responsible for the damage at all. Both cases, charges were eventually dropped, but they had to complain several times. So Hertz has mentioned that UVI's purpose is to bring greater transparency, precision, and speed to renting. Okay, they're going for efficiency, and they're losing effectiveness. Now, you have a car rental company, and they put a sensor on your car that measures how fast you go. Turn your car in, nothing's ever said, you get a couple $100 sent to you later on as another charge for speeding. How happy are you? You're not happy. This is even worse. Okay. Has anybody watched what's going on with AI work slop? I was going to put this in at the end of the semester, but it's just too perfect. This describes low-quality AI-generated content that's clogging up employees' lives and wasting their time. It's called work slop. It appears polished but lacks real substance. It's slowing down people's workday. Employees are reporting spending an average of 2 hours a day dealing with each instance. Work slop carries real costs. Can add up to $9 billion a year in lost productivity just from employees trying to correct it. Half of the employees surveyed viewed slop senders as less creative, capable, and reliable. What is work slop? Generate an email for me, and I'm going to send it out without looking at it. Write my resume, and I'm going to send it to 200 people on LinkedIn. Write my letter of recommendation to me for Brady. Just send it out without even looking at it. That's slop. I'd never heard that before, but it's interesting that it's gotten bad enough to pick it up. That's generative AI. Hertz's system is blocking and tackling. And then you get a famous customer service chatbot. A developer using a code editor, AI-powered code editor, noticed something strange. Switching between machines instantly logged them out, breaking the workflow for programmers who use multiple devices, which is most sophisticated programmers. When the user contacted support, an AI chatbot named Sam told them it was expected behavior under a new policy. But no such policy existed, and Sam was a generative chatbot. The model, Sam, had made the policy up, sparking a wave of complaints and cancellation threats that showed up all over Reddit. They fabricated the company policy, leading to widespread customer dissatisfaction and cancellations. This was April this year. The response, which the bot said was official, led to a whole lot of trouble. The erroneous message claimed that the software was designed to work with only one device per subscription, citing it as a core security feature. The non-existent policy was circulated among users, et cetera, et cetera. This is a mess. All they could do is say, sorry about that, we fixed our agent. What I'm trying to get at here, guys, is this stuff is very real. And it's not as simple as, oh, good, we're going to run a model and get a high prediction. Okay, we talked about bias, unfair outcomes produced by the system. You can also have coming from biased training data, or you can have algorithmic bias that comes from the way that you use your algorithms. The problem here is if this occurs in deep neural networks. It's very hard to get an algorithmic bias unless you can step through one of those things. And so you'll be called in on those, I will guarantee you. Okay, legal implications are huge. Using generative AI that we talked about with those attorneys, driverless car injures someone in an accident, which has already happened. By the way, who or what is liable? Tesla's all over this because they're getting people killed. Who gets sued? Who are you going to sue? You're going to sue somebody. Who do you go after, guys? Come on.
We created the unsafe model, especially if they marketed it as safe.
Yeah, but you got the car itself, okay? Then you've got the software that the car is running. May not be the same company. So your attorney, who's been to law school, who has the deepest pockets? Every time. All right. So enough about the first two chapters. Y'all are all straight. You're way ahead of all sorts of folks. When you get these considerations, we're way off in the business world, and here are some more AI disasters. February last year, Air Canada was ordered to pay damages to a passenger after its virtual assistant gave him incorrect information at a particularly difficult time. This particular gentleman contacted the chat bot about bereavement fares following the death of his grandmother. The bot told him one ticket ended up blah, blah, blah. It was the wrong thing. Sports Illustrated may have published AI-generated writers with no human in the loop. Gannett Artificial Intelligence flubs high school sports articles because they are written by an AI tool. iTutor's group recruiting AI rejects applicants due to age. That's a lawsuit brought by the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity. ChatGPT hallucinates court cases. AI algorithms identify everything but COVID-19. You got to go some there. Zillow wrote down millions of dollars and cut its workforce due to algorithmic home buying disaster. Healthcare algorithm failed to flag African American patients. Dataset trained Microsoft's chatbot to spew racist tweets. That was 7 years ago, so we have not improved that much. Amazon AI-enabled recruitment tool only recommended men. Sorry about that, ladies. These are all true stories. So as we go into this is the heart of your machine learning life cycle. Okay, chapters 1 and 2 are background, and this is what you have to figure out. Companies are at different levels. Now, this is very interesting because we've got generative AI so confused with blocking and tackling AI that you may have generative AI all over your organization. These are called stealth systems. If you go out in a very large organization and you say, are you using generative AI? And you have to give them examples, GPT, Claude, or whatever, Gemini. If the policy is don't use it, they're all going to say they're not using it. If the policy says you can use it, only a fairly low percentage are saying they actually are. Now, the AI slop problem, AI slop. So be real careful when we look at these maturity levels. Initial awareness, okay. You recognize the potential, but you've not begun to adopt it. Okay, that's fair. Then go to experimentation. You start exploring applications with pilot projects. Now, notice specific departments, okay, these are trial runs. They want to see how it works. You're experimenting. Systematic adoption. They implement solutions into their operations. Now, this is, you're getting in the big leagues here. You're still doing experimentation here. If you're going to mess with operations, think UPS. Okay, then I'm going to do integrated management. I'm going to integrate these technologies into core business operations, decision-making processes. That means that This is an operation that you pick specifically like package flow technology. Here, this is right on through the organization. And then once you go from here to here, you're in the Amazon range, the Google range, Facebook, and those companies that have built around machine learning across the firm. But what they want to do is take it a step further. Here, you're improving efficiencies, some decision making. Here, you want to really turn it around. This is what Accenture's trying to do. So when I look at this, there aren't many at level 5. There are a whole lot of people at the companies at 1 and 2. I'll be interested to hear where the outreach people are on those. Those are I haven't even begun here. These are probably smaller companies or really laggards. A lot of experimentation going on. This is usually, you're going to be in the healthcare space here because you have to be so careful on what you're doing. This is probably legal when I'm just doing electronic discovery. And then 4 and 5 are companies that have really put it to good use, but there's a lot of work going on in these areas. So when you get started, you have to figure out, and this is just about as boring as you can imagine it to be until you get out in the real world. You've got to figure out what your goals and strategies are. Now, when you look at disruptions, that's going to disrupt your goals, your objectives. And so machine learning, you're going to have to, very first thing you got to do is you got to line up with objectives, but then you've got to figure out, can you do it? What's this? What are the aspects of feasibility?
This would be like proper understanding of what the adoption would actually mean. Like if you tell people like, we want you to do AI to help improve your tasks, but they don't really understand that and they just try to get AI to do all of their tasks, and then you just end up with the same problem of.
Okay, in the generative AI world?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
Could it be affordability?
Affordability, primarily what you're going to have there with feasibility is you got the money. You have the money. Is it affordable? Okay, but before that, do you want to go off and do package flow technology, which is one of your most important processes in UPS? Do you really want to go after that? Incredible risk. Somebody's got to sign off on this. You're going to need an executive sponsor, no matter if he's chewing up your people or not. And you're going to need the money, and then you're going to need the people. Okay? This is where Accenture is. I had not realized she'd gone that far, that fast, but as far as she's concerned, their mission, their goals have changed. Consulting to them now means I'm helping you come up and get speed in AI. Okay, so you're going to pay me to help you do that. Well, that means I've got to have our own people doing that. Okay, so feasibility for them is I've got to train everybody up, which is that $865 million that they're going to spend. So I got to have the people, I got to have the affordability. Then when you get into there with the people, you got to be real careful. If you're going to put generative AI in there and allow people to use it, the very first thing you have to realize is they're going to use it anyway. You guys have had classes where you had to sign an oath. I won't use generative AI. I've heard about those. I don't get it, but I get it. You know, as far as if you're that kind of, if you're that worried about it. But that's another. You've got the blocking and tackling, which could cause your company to implode, and then generative AI, which your people are going to use regardless. So this is feasibility is not lightweight. This is why I said you guys are in on the front end. When you're starting to do the feasibility analysis, are there any data scientists in the room?
Took data scientist classes.
Peripherally, because one of the things you got to have is technology. So the data science will tell you if it's feasible to do this, because this is going to come into, when you talk about affordability, which is extremely important, you're in here and you're saying, okay, What do I get? What do I need? I got to have the data, I got to have the people, I got to have the money, I got to have a sponsor. Then I get the long-term impacts. This, with UPS, it was survival. Now, the good news was they were only in 5 centers. So if they'd imploded that whole system, it wouldn't have taken UPS down. Okay, at least at that time. So they lowered their risk. But notice, be very, very careful. We've got way too many companies now looking for immediate gains. How do you measure gains? Return on investment. ROI does not come quickly with machine learning. Okay, you can try it, and you're going to end up having incredible costs, and you're not sure about the gains right away. It took 2 years that I know of for UPS to start seeing those gains. So be very careful what you do here. I don't know why they're talking about industry trends, because if you do this and you do it well, by the way, is every company in the major logistics space doing exactly what UPS did? Absolutely. FedEx is not stupid. Walmart, JB Hunt, they're all doing this. They're all doing package flow technology, any fulfillment center. Okay? Then you got to check disruptions, evolving customer expectations. All of this is you guys. This is all business professionals. You'll have the analysts in there with you. If you have technical questions about feasibility, the data scientists. Okay, now, developing these plans. You don't have a lot of time. It's always great to sit back, kick your feet up like we do in academia, but you don't have time in the real world. So, capabilities, resource allocation, change management, heaven forbid, and all the other factors. This is how you're coming up with your project. Now, innovation and responsible use. Who's doing the risk analysis? You're it, guys. What happens if it blows up? Societal impact, ethical implications, technical failures, always regulatory issues, unintended consequences. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
What about legal ramifications?
Legal follows regulatory. You're exactly right. No, I should have put it there explicitly. Legal is a real serious problem, as you all know. A business professional could be having a lawyer in there with you. You just look for the guy who's wearing a belt and suspenders. My brother's a lawyer. I can talk about him all I want. So they're very cautious. Okay. Now, there's all kind of models. That's a lot being thrown at you right away. All this stuff comes from your domain expertise. Now, you would think that this would be all C-level people. Well, it's not. This will get right on down. All these issues will get right on down to people that are actually on the firing line, if it were. If you're dealing with customers, you've got to bring your customer service people in there. If you're dealing with anything with HR will come in and so forth. This is not, I'm not talking about an all vice presidential level here. They're going to look for your input pretty quickly. Probably, let's see here. Yeah, the thing they're going to start looking for you guys if you're early on a hire is change management. You put the system in, what do you think about it? Which means if you're on the planning stage, you're going to have to tell your people what? Here are the benefits for you. But if you're Accenture, how's she selling that plan? Notice this. Think about what we just talked about with what Julie Sweet's doing at Accenture with just these 2 slides. She's changed her organization's strategic goals. She's focusing strictly on machine learning, internally and externally. Her objectives are to consult with people who want to move into machine learning. And so she's up against Deloitte, Boston Consulting Group, all those people, IBM Global Services. So she's doing feasibility. She's already talked to you about that in her earnings call 2 days ago. And she's looking for industry trends, disruptions, customer expectations. What are customer expectations? They're in the same panic that Accenture's in. How fast can we ramp people up? So What does this do for all you guys? If you're in outreach land where there's 35 people, you're now being upskilled in this class. For you guys, put it at the top of your Vita. You've got basic knowledge. You're an informed user. That means your company does not have to upskill you when you're hired. Okay? And so when I look at these two slides, just these two, I'm thinking we just had a case in point right there in UPS and a case in point right there in Accenture. One's in the physical world, one's in the digital world, consulting. So the models are intense. So let's do those on Wednesday. Have a short day, okay? Because otherwise I'll get piled up in there on one-on-ones.
Thank you.